Welcome to Mighty Mythology Realm, the place where mythology lives and breathes. Today we're diving deep into the mysterious world of Greek mythology, where we'll meet Dionysus, the god of wine and madness, and uncover his darkest story, a revenge so terrible it changes everything. This is a tale of power, chaos, and divine influence without limits. If you're ready to dive into a world of passion and gods, don't forget to like and follow Mighty Mythology Realm, because here, every myth comes to life and you won't want to miss a single story. Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and madness, was one of the most mysterious gods in Greek mythology. He was known for his ability to bring both joy and destruction, blurring the lines between sanity and madness, order and chaos. His followers, who fell into divine madness, sought freedom in rituals that allowed them to escape from everyday life. But what happens when a god like Dionysus is insulted? What happens when such a god is ignored or mocked? That is when his terrible revenge strikes. The city of Thebes, the capital of Bacchae, refused to accept the worship of Dionysus. They saw him as a foreign god, one who would only bring chaos. Especially King Pentheus, the ruler of the city, was adamant in denying Dionysus's power. He could not understand the rituals, the dancing, and the drunkenness that drove his followers wild. But Dionysus was not a god who would tolerate disrespect. When he encountered rejection, he showed his power in a cruel way. The god of wine and madness does not forget an offense, and sometimes, even when ignored, he seeks revenge. Dionysus decided to restore his honor, but not in the usual way. He arrived in Thebes in the form of a handsome young man, accompanied by a group of women, the Bacchae, his most devoted followers. The Bacchae were women who had been swept up by the god's madness, completely dedicated to him. They left their homes, their children, to join Dionysus and partake in his world of wine and ecstasy. Pentheus, seeing these women dancing in the streets, could not comprehend it. He called them mad and blamed Dionysus for the chaos. He commanded that the god be captured and punished, but Dionysus, with his divine wisdom, did not allow them to catch him. In his divine language, he caused all the guards to see illusions, tangled their efforts, and left them helpless. Meanwhile, Dionysus continued to lead his followers through the mountains, where they did not just drink wine, but also indulged in divine madness. The ritual, in fact, was not just about drinking alcohol. It was a ceremony where all boundaries of control were broken, where followers left their inhibitions behind to dance and indulge in every sensation. They were part of the divine madness, forgetting themselves, forgetting time. The women who followed Dionysus were free from daily worries, free from law and social order. The body became an instrument for joy and sensuality, and physical pleasure was the focus. It was a ritual of total freedom. But Pentheus did not understand. He saw them as a threat. The king was prepared to do anything to restore order in Thebes. He could not stay indifferent to this chaos. Pentheus sent his men to fight against Dionysus, but when they ventured into the wilderness, they encountered the god's magic. Even the king's men lost their sanity, and soon they were all under the influence of Dionysus. When Pentheus realized that the situation was slipping out of his control, he decided to take desperate action. He dressed as a woman, hoping to hide his identity from the Bacchae, believing they would not recognize him if he disguised himself. But Dionysus, in the end, led him into a trap, and despite everything, brought him to the mountains where his fate awaited. And then, at the peak of the chaos, the terrible event occurred. The Bacchae, who were so intoxicated by the god's frenzy, did not recognize Pentheus. They did not see him as a king. They did not see him as a man. They saw only an enemy that had to be eliminated. In the state of divine madness, they tore his body to pieces. It was a horrific act, the destruction of one man. But this destruction was intentional. Dionysus did not just want revenge. He wanted to break anyone who disrespected him. There were women among the Bacchae, including Pentheus's mother, who were caught in the madness. These women, mothers, wives, and sisters, without understanding the madness they were participating in, tore Pentheus apart with their own hands. It was more than the destruction of a body. It was the destruction of everything they knew, everything that was accepted, everything that was taken for granted. Pentheus's mother, too, was caught in the divine madness and took part in the tearing, without understanding what she was doing. She did not recognize him, did not see him as her son. After his death, when the Bacchae returned to their senses, they stood before the mutilated body, and it seemed they could not comprehend the horror they had caused. But Dionysus showed no sign of regret. He did not regret that Pentheus was torn apart. In his eyes, it was the decree of a god. It was a revenge meant not only to punish Pentheus, but to send a message to the world. Gods cannot be mocked. Those who provoke their power will face their consequences. The message was clear. The god of Dionysus does not tolerate disrespect. Those who forget his power, who refuse to recognize his world, his madness, will pay a terrible price. Dionysus, the god of wine and madness, can lift a person to the heights of ecstasy, but he can also cast them into the depths of terrible destruction. Thus, Dionysus's terrible revenge was not only vengeance on Pentheus, but also a warning to all believers. Do not play with forces beyond your control. Do not mock divine madness. As we reach the end of the story of Dionysus's dark revenge, it's important to remember, the gods of mythology are not to be underestimated. Their power, their wrath, and their unpredictability weave the very fabric of the world they rule. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about gods, heroes, and epic battles, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to Mighty Mythology Realm. The myths are always waiting, and the journey is far from over. Stay with us, because the next adventure is already on the horizon. Always remember, in the realm of the gods, every action can lead to an unforgettable darkness.